We recently sent out a survey asking who wants to sell their own online course. We got a lot of questions about what if I don't have the knowledge that people want to learn, or what if no one wants to learn what I know. But there is a very simple process that you can do to quickly validate your course idea and make sure that people will pay money for your knowledge.
So real quick, that's my brother Mike. I'm Maddie. We created Koi to help creators achieve freedom by building and scaling an online education business.
The very first thing you want to do is figure out what problems you've already solved. And this is a step you definitely don't want to skip, because this is how courses become scams. The course creator has not actually solved the problem, yet they're selling a course on how to do it. And if you can't prove that you get results for your customers, then they're going to be very unhappy. They're going to leave bad reviews and they're going to call you a scam.
This is like the epitome of like sleazy salesperson.
I think the most common mistake here is people try to find a huge problem, but it can be a small problem. For example, you don't have to help other people make $1 million a year. Do something simple like, I know there's a course out there that I've seen recently where it's like how to do a handstand. Right? It's like a very simple concept. And the person teaches you how to do a handstand in like less than 30 days or something. I mean, I can't do a handstand myself. You can do a handstand, right? Like how long did it actually take you?
I don't know, probably 3 months of yoga.
3 months of yoga, right? So this person, they fast tracked it. They were like, these are the very key muscles to train. This is how many minutes a day you should train. And in less than 30 days, you're going to be able to do a handstand. It's like, that's such a simple problem to solve that if you've already solved, you can get people the results in much faster time.
Start with what you solved. You have the most credibility. You don't have to like learn anything new. You just have to refine what you've already done. And if you've solved that problem, then you also understand the pain of someone who has not solved that problem. So you can also speak their language better. You also understand where they're coming from, and you also understand the process of doing it. How many problems do you think someone should like try to identify that they've solved?
I would say to list as many as you can. But if you run out of ideas, ask your family and your friends, ask them what they think you're good at solving. Like I remember when I was asking my a bunch of my friends, my family members, they said that I was good at a lot of health problems, which made sense because that's what they know me for going to medical school.
So once you have identified some of the problems that you solved, we can move on to the next step of this framework here, which is how recent have you solved that problem?
How recent is pretty important, because if you solved the problem 10 years ago and it is no longer relevant, or like there's new technology and the whole landscape has changed, then, you know, you are not an expert as you thought you were. I also think that the word expert here could potentially be scary for people.
Let's change that word then.
Because some people might think, like, oh, I can't teach because I'm not an expert. But you don't have to be an expert to teach what you do, as long as you got the results. I think that is the main criteria.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point. I remember like this was back when I was applying for medical school, actually. I remember that our mom connected me with this surgeon who was like trying to teach people how to get into medical school. And I was like, cool, like when did you get into medical school? And he was like, oh, like 1970 something. I was like, wait a minute. Like the MCAT has changed since then. Like the whole curriculum has changed. And it's like, and you're going to tutor me how to get in? Like it just didn't really connect. And long story short, we didn't really end up working together because I didn't really feel the results. And so just because you have solved something doesn't mean that you are equipped at the current moment to help someone solve it, for that exact same reason that you said. Like you want to be recently engaged in that craft and in that industry so that you have the relevance, the context, and the perspective of someone who has that problem right now.
Yeah, so I was recently on a coaching call with someone who also said that we're trying to figure out like what kind of course they wanted to sell. And this person said, I want to sell a course on how to produce music. And so I was trying to dive a little deeper on this. And I said, hey, is music your passion? Like, have you been doing this for a long time? And it seemed like he was pretty up to date on the stuff. But when I looked at his feed, like most of the content that he was consuming was not related to music, and it was more so related to dating. And so I was like, huh, that's curious. Like, why are you watching so much dating content? And he was saying that, oh, you know, I think long term, I really like the niche of dating, and I can see myself being a dating coach in like 10 years from now. And so I was like, huh, in 10 years, do you think you'll still be selling courses on how to produce music. And he's like, oh no, definitely not. I will not be
Mm-hmm.
doing that.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting because the longer you stay in a niche, the easier it is to stay up to date.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to think about like what skills or what problems you solve that you can continue to be interested in for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
because then you will outlast everyone else. While everyone else has moved on to the next thing,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be the most up to date person in that niche.
Once you've identified the problems that you've solved and it's something that you've done recently and are still currently obsessed in or working in, the next step is to do something called market research.
You wrote like TAM, TAM, going up and down. TAM is basically total addressable market.
Mm-hmm.
That's the acronym.
Yeah.
If you're selling cars, then so many people in the world would need to buy a car.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're selling
Koi fish.
koi fish, then less people in the world want to buy koi fish.
Mm-hmm.
So the total addressable market for cars is much bigger than the TAM for koi fish.
So basically, the size of the potential customers that you can have. The up and down arrows basically mean, is that number growing or is that number shrinking?
Mm-hmm. Super important. I was recently watching the show, one of my favorite shows, Succession. In the show, the protagonist has this news company, and the whole theme of the show is like, oh, this company is outdated.
Mm,
Newspapers are getting old.
yeah.
The news is getting old, and the new thing now is social media and digital marketing. And so the whole show is just about how does the protagonist deal with a shrinking TAM? That's a really hard place to be in.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the blockbuster effect.
So yeah, if you're trying to sell a course on something that is shrinking in size, like a TAM that's shrinking, then best to avoid it, or
Hmm.
best to figure out what the new thing is.
Okay. So it sounds like what we're doing is you want to pair a problem that you solved with, and you want to find out if the problem you solved is popular to a particular audience and how big that audience is, and if they're growing or they're shrinking. And in order to do that, we have to do something called market research.
People are fearful that what if no one wants to pay for my course, or what if no one wants to learn what I know? And the fastest way to validate that yes, people do want to learn what you know is by doing market research and making sure that this idea already works.
How would you break down market research for someone who doesn't understand marketing terms?
So market research isn't really a step-by-step thing. It's more of like, here are a bunch of exercises to do to validate your idea. Fundamentally is just analyzing what people are saying. And if you're afraid that you have no audience, like, hey, I have no followers, well, the best part is that there's tons of pockets of communities where you have free access to comments. We're going to look at reviews, testimonials, and we're going to figure out what people really want.
What people are saying.
I think one of the best ways to start is by going to the bookstore. Or if you don't want to physically go to a bookstore, go to Amazon Books and just go to the digital bookstore, because it takes a lot of time and effort for an author to write a book.
I think I saw something recently where AI can write you a book in like 5 minutes.
The AI can
GPT
write you the
prompt.
book in 5 minutes, but if the AI is writing a book based on who you are, let's say the AI is writing a book about Elon Musk,
Mhm.
that is 50 years in the making.
That's true.
So
Mhm.
that's the main difference. I remember seeing the survey that there were multiple people who were looking to teach how to crochet. So I'm on Amazon right now, and I'm gonna search how to crochet, and you can see like it already auto populates all the ideas. Like you can do how to crochet for beginners, how to crochet for kids,
Hmm.
how to crochet specifically flowers. And I'm sure there's like specific niches within crocheting. How to crochet a shawl. Like in general, the more focused and targeted you make your course or your teachings, then the better it will sell.
You're saying that these are like the most commonly searched things on Amazon. So that's like what
Mm-hmm.
people want, and that's what you should
Mm-hmm.
focus your content on.
Right. Like I'm just gonna click. Let's how to crochet flowers. Right. That seems pretty specific. And already you're seeing multiple books on how to crochet flowers. There's actually a lot here.
Mhm.
So like, even though it sounds very niche and very specific, there is obviously a market for it.
And it sounds like this approach will work for not just Amazon books, probably like searching on Google as well, or like YouTube or any place that has SEO or search engine
Hmm.
optimization, where it saves, AI will save like the most common popular searched terms.
Something specific like this, like how to crochet flowers, you have a much better chance of selling information that's very specific. But let me show you this website. I don't know if anyone's heard about this, but Masterclass is I guess it's a course website where celebrities teach their knowledge.
Mhm.
And if you go down to explore what celebrities are teaching, it is like super general, right? Win big in business. Are they teaching you how to build business around selling physical products or digital products? It's so unclear,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So you don't even know what transformation you're going to achieve from Mark Cuban. He's just going to spit all this business knowledge that might not even be relevant to you. Obviously, all these celebrities, like they have achieved such big things that I think people will just watch it just because they have so much authority.
Mhm.
But if you're looking to be a comedian and you're watching this Kevin Hart course, Kevin Hart's not going to be there to coach you. Whereas someone like you who's watching on the podcast, you can show up to the calls and you can give that one-on-one hands-on help to make sure that your customers succeed. And I would much rather pay $100 to you than $100 to Kevin Hart if I know that I'm going to get the results much more reliably through you. So just because someone's famous doesn't mean that they're always going to win.
That's probably why Masterclass doesn't charge that much for a subscription. I actually don't know how much it
Mm-hmm.
is. You can click on view plans, but I would be willing to bet that it's not super expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's pretty much what I expected. It's like
It's
it's
like
basically just watching YouTube videos.
watching Netflix. It's
Yeah.
basically a Netflix subscription,
Hmm.
or it's more just entertainment.
Hmm.
I don't think that you're really going to get the transformation you're looking for.
So it sounds like doing market research is really important because one, you're trying to identify a very specific problem that people have, not
Mm-hmm.
this really general approach that you're saying. I guess that is the main reason why. There's only one reason, huh?
Yeah, that is the main reason.
There's only
You
one
want
reason why.
to you want to validate. So like
Yeah.
even here, let me give another tip here for if you want to get really tactical. Like let's say you want to sell a course teaching people how to crochet for beginners. Here is a book. Looks like it's a bestseller. So in general, you want to look at a product that has a lot of reviews. The 5-star reviews are helpful because it tells you exactly what to do. And then the 1-star reviews are also helpful because it tells you exactly what not to do.
Mm.
But one of the most helpful is actually in the middle. It's like the 3-star to 4-star reviews. Those ones are helpful because you'll usually find things like, oh, this book was good, but it was missing this one thing that if it had that thing, it would have made this a 5-star. You want to focus on what is the thing it is missing, and you want to make sure to not miss that on your course. Let me see if I can find an example here. Simple instructions for several lovely stitches, but no instructions on how to stop when the article is finished. So, I mean, I'm not a person who crochets, so I don't really know what this means when the article is finished. But if you're trying to make a good product, do not skimp out on the instructions on how to stop when the article is finished, whatever that means. If you get the picture, it's like looking for things that people are complaining that is missing, and then making absolutely sure that you don't miss that.
I think it's an interesting approach because one of the fastest ways to improve your product is to get feedback. And so this tactic right here, you are basically using someone else's credibility and results that they've gotten and learning from their mistakes as you build your product. So you're basically hacking into their feedback loops and learning a lot faster. So not only do you have your own expertise, but you can leverage what are problems with other competitors. And so you can make your product even better.
Yeah. So the last step down there is, does the market have money, and is the market willing to buy? A good example, if you're making a course or selling products to people who are unemployed, trying to help people, you know, get a job. The people who
Mhm.
are unemployed, they don't really have money. So they don't have the power to buy your course. A very, very common example is
I
people
mean,
selling to students, which is what
yeah,
we did.
I was gonna say we have
Students is a
we have
very tough market.
personally struggled and been in this exact square here.
Yeah. I mean, we've learned a lot. One of the cool things we learned after going into this very difficult niche is that students do have money to buy, but it's a very specific type of student. So when people say students, you always think about like, oh, high school, college student, the type of student that goes to free events to get the free food because they have no money. But what we found from selling Study Quest is a lot of the engaged students, the ones that uh, generally like to buy our course, are the older students. Um, some people call them adult learners, but these are students who are in graduate programs, who are going for specialized degrees or special certifications,
Hmm.
or they're students who have been out of school for a while and now they're
Hmm.
going back to school because they want to transition into a new career,
Hmm.
or they want to continue their education and they've not studied for a long time,
Hmm.
and so they're looking to improve their learning skills in that regard. And so yeah, being in this niche, we realized and we noticed that ended up still serving the people with the money and the people
Hmm.
who are willing to buy. In the niche that you're trying to go into, you got to make sure that there is that segment of people who are willing to buy.
Yeah, what is that? The Pareto principle there? It's the 80-20, where 20% of the people who you serve are going to pay you 80% of your profits. So, how would you recommend someone figure out from like that niche of students who want to learn, for example, or let's use the example we had before, people who crochet and they want to make flowers. How do you determine if they have money or not?
Well, you can look at the their sales, look at the books, and if they're actually selling, then yeah, that means people are willing to pay money for it. If
So,
you go
yeah.
on just Google and just search how to crochet course, and if you can find actual courses that people are selling
Hmm.
and see like what the price tag is on the course, then that is another way to validate like, hey, people are actually buying courses on this very specific topic.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think another really underrated way to do it, which could also be part of this one before, is to send out surveys or literally just like talk to people. Talk to people who
Mhm.
have the problem as opposed to like lurking through comments. Just get on Zoom calls with people and ask them what they would be willing to pay for that problem being solved.
There's a lot of golden rules when it comes to business,
Hmm.
but one of the recent golden rules I learned is that if a lot of people are willing to watch your content for free, then the golden rule is there's always going to be a small percentage of those people who are willing to pay for your content. If people are willing to pay with their time, then a smaller portion of people are going to be willing to pay with their money. The reason they're paying is because they get the result faster,
Hmm.
or they get the result with less stress. It's like people will pay for speed, people will pay for not having to do the work.
So now that we've identified if they have money, the last step is kind of just like coming back full circle. And you kind of talked about this a little bit with that story about the music producer who wants to go dating. It really just comes back to, do you want to do it? Is this
Hmm.
a problem that you could see yourself solving for a long time? Because the most challenging thing about building a business is not wanting to quit. And if you don't love
Hmm.
it, if you don't want to see yourself in that space for the next 5 years, 10 years, you're probably not going to make it. And so, how bad do you want it, right?
Sometimes you see like on business marketing, they say like 10 years in business, or like
Hmm.
we are now celebrating our 25th year anniversary,
Yeah, for
or
sure.
like Disneyland just announced that
It was like 50 or
they
100?
reached like a hundred
100.
years
Yeah.
in business. And that's a really big deal. Actually, like here in Hawaii, it was like yesterday, no, 2 days ago,
Hmm.
there was this really cool fireworks show that was like the longest fireworks show I've ever seen in my entire life. It was like 10 minutes of fireworks, and it was all done by one company. I forget what company it was. I think it was like a design company or something. I have to look it up.
Mm.
But they were celebrating 36 years of business, and that was just a huge moment for them. So they just did fireworks, lit up everything.
Hmm.
But yeah, the point is that the longer you stay in business, the longer you outlast all your competitors, and you become known in the space as one of the big players. Just back to your point, is like, do you actually want to do this? translates to you will do this for a very long time because you like it so much. Every industry is going to change and evolve. So if you stick with it, then you will be there to be the most up to date with all the changes.
Totally. I'm just gonna write how bad do you want it there. But is there any like, is there a way to think about how badly you want it? Is there like a process that you would recommend someone to decide? Because I think definitely if it's purely for the money, then that's not like a great reason to build a program out of it. So there has to be something more, right?
That's literally what I was going to say. First of all, ask yourself, what is the reason why you want to do this business? And if the main reason is I need money, then that is a red flag, yellow flag that you should reconsider and factor in the fact that do you actually even like this type of business? Another easy way is to just try it out, like get into the business, do it for a period of time, and really pay attention to your interactions with the customers, because every single industry has a very unique type of customer. So like we were in this learning niche, and I think it's a lot of fun to interact with students and to help them figure out their future and to help them figure out what they want to do with their life. I get a lot of fulfillment in helping students. I've always had a lot of fulfillment in helping patients when I was in medicine. So like every niche has like a specific class of person. So figure out like, do you actually like to work with this person, this type of person, and would you be able to do that for many years?
So I want to go back to this picture over here, the one that's like a funnel pretty much, because you said something at the beginning, which was to identify as many problems as you can. So let's say, for example, there's like 20 problems, which is probably a lot of problems. I feel like most people are not going to be able to think of that many. But the whole idea is that as you go down this number is going to shrink, and you're going to end up with, I don't know, something like 1 to 3 things that actually you could build a business around or sell, right? So it's just think of this like a funnel. And each of these layers here, you're just narrowing in on something more specific. And then if you have a few things that you can consider, it's a lot less overwhelmed, a lot less analysis paralysis than if you had 20 things to consider.
Yeah, it's like your knowledge funnel.
Let's say that, knowledge funnel.
I don't know if that's the best word, but
what to teach. I'll leave that.
in a nutshell, you figured out what you are equipped to sell, what people would actually want to buy it, and then are you able to stick with it and stay consistent for a while?